Prestige Mind Collections presents this audiobook, The Wealth Blueprint: How to Build Lasting Wealth and Achieve Financial Freedom. Introduction: The blueprint in your hands. Have you ever felt like you're on a treadmill that's locked on an ever-increasing incline? You started out walking, then jogging, and now you're in a full, desperate sprint, but the scenery never, ever changes. You work harder, you get a small raise, but the incline just gets steeper. The bills get bigger, the lifestyle costs more, and you have to run even faster just to keep from falling off the back. The paycheck lands in your account, a moment of fleeting relief, before it's immediately vaporized by the mortgage, the car payment, the credit card bill, the groceries. You are living the great lie of the modern world, the illusion of progress. This is not a life of freedom, it is a life sentence of running in place. You have been handed a map that leads you in a perfect circle, and the name of that prison is the rat race. But what if I told you there was another map? A secret one, a blueprint, not for a better treadmill, but for a way out of the gym entirely. That feeling of being trapped is not your fault. You are not lazy, you are not unintelligent, and you are not unworthy of wealth. You are simply playing a game with a fraudulent rulebook, a rulebook handed to you by a society that needs you to keep running. From the moment you were born, you were programmed with a faulty financial script. It's a script that sounds responsible, a path that feels safe. It goes like this: go to school, get good grades, find a secure job with good benefits, buy the biggest house you can afford because it's your greatest asset, save a little bit in your pension, and then, after 45 years of dutifully running on the treadmill, you might get to retire and finally enjoy your life. This script is the greatest wealth transfer mechanism ever invented, a transfer of wealth from your pocket to the pockets of the banks, the corporations, and the government. It is a blueprint for a life of financial mediocrity. It is designed to create dutiful employees and compliant consumers, not free and sovereign individuals. It is a life sentence of someday. Someday I'll travel. Someday I'll be debt-free. Someday I'll have enough to stop worrying. But someday is the cruelest lie of all, because for most who follow this path, someday never comes. Today, you tear up that old script. Today, you are being handed a new one. This is not just a collection of tips on how to run a little faster on the treadmill. This is the architectural blueprint for a life of true and lasting freedom. To understand the power of what you are about to learn, let me tell you a simple parable of two builders. Imagine two people are given a plot of land and a huge pile of the finest building materials in the world: strong lumber, solid stone, pristine glass. Both are told to build a house that will last for 100 years. The first builder is frantic. He is obsessed with the appearance of progress. He grabs a hammer and nails and immediately starts fastening boards together. He works incredibly hard, 16 hours a day, sweat pouring from his brow. He is a whirlwind of activity. From a distance, his progress looks incredible. A structure is rising from the ground. But because he has no plan, no blueprint, the walls are crooked. The foundation is uneven. The rooms are oddly shaped and don't connect properly. His life is a constant state of emergency, running from one leak to another, patching holes, propping up sagging walls, and wondering why, despite all his exhausting effort, his house feels so fragile and stressful. This frantic builder is the average person following the old script, living a life of chaotic, reactive financial management. The second builder is different. She is an architect. For the first few days, a casual observer might think she is lazy. She isn't hammering any nails or raising any walls. She is sitting quietly, with a pen and a piece of paper. She is measuring the land. She is studying the angle of the sun. She is drawing. She is designing the foundation, planning the electrical systems, engineering the load-bearing walls, and envisioning the final, magnificent structure. She is creating the blueprint. Her initial progress is invisible to the outside world. But when she finally picks up her tools, every single action is precise, purposeful, and efficient. Every board is cut to the perfect length. Every stone is laid on a solid foundation. There is no wasted effort, no chaotic emergency. Her work is calm, deliberate, and powerful. The result is not a fragile shack, but an unshakable fortress, a masterpiece of design that will stand for generations. This audiobook is that blueprint. It is the master plan that will allow you to stop being the frantic builder and start being the deliberate architect of your life. Wealth is not an accident. It is not the result of luck or frantic effort. It is the result of a brilliant design, executed with precision over time. This blueprint is built upon four foundational pillars. They are the four essential sections of any great architectural plan. Neglect one, and the entire structure is compromised. Master them all, and your financial freedom is not just possible, it is inevitable. Pillar 1, the mindset foundation. This is the very ground upon which you build. Before you can lay a single stone, you must excavate the soft, toxic soil of your limiting beliefs about money and replace it with a bedrock of abundance and possibility. Your wealth can never outgrow your mindset. We will give you the tools to become the master architect of your own mind. Pillar 2, the earning engine. This is the powerful frame and engine room of your fortress. A structure needs a powerful source of energy. You will learn how to transform your 9 to 5 from a simple paycheck into a high-performance machine, and then, you will learn how to construct new, independent pipelines of income that flow into your life, providing the raw materials for your growth. Pillar 3, the growth system. This is the electrical grid and the automated systems of your castle. It's not enough to generate power, you must have a system to multiply it and distribute it. You will learn the simple, yet profound, strategy for putting your money to work, harnessing the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest, to build your wealth automatically while you sleep. Pillar 4, the defensive wall. This is the impenetrable wall, the deep moat, and the high watchtower of your fortress. A magnificent castle with no defenses is a fool's paradise, waiting to be plundered. You will learn how to build an unshakable defense against the enemies of debt, financial emergencies, and the single greatest threat of all, your own unforced errors of judgment. This is the promise of the wealth blueprint. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a get-wealth-for-life system. The journey will require you to unlearn a lifetime of faulty programming and replace it with the principles of the architect. It will demand that you trade the frantic, stressful life of the builder for the calm, deliberate, and powerful life of the designer. The old map leads to a dead end. The frantic path leads to a fragile shack. The blueprint you now hold in your hands leads to a fortress. It leads home. Let's begin. Let's break ground. Chapter 1, The Architect's Mind, Rewiring Your Money Brain. Imagine, for a moment, the biggest failure you can conceive of. Now multiply it. This is where our story begins, in the early 1990s, with a young woman who felt she had failed at everything. Her short-lived marriage had imploded. She was jobless, a single parent, and so poor she was surviving on state benefits. She described herself as the biggest failure I knew. She was navigating poverty in a cold-water flat in Edinburgh, often choosing between heating the room and feeding the meter to keep the lights on. By every external metric society uses to measure a person, she was at rock bottom. But in the quiet moments, in between spoon-feeding her baby and walking the cold streets, she was building an empire. It wasn't an empire of stocks or real estate. It was an empire of the mind, and it would one day be worth more than $1 billion. This is the story of Joanne Rowling, and it is the first foundational lesson in the Wealth Blueprint. The world you inhabit is governed by two distinct blueprints. The first is the one given to you by your circumstances, your upbringing, your education, your societal programming, your current bank balance. For J.K. Rowling, this blueprint was stark and brutal. It was a detailed architectural drawing of a life of poverty and failure. The lines were drawn with rejection letters from publishers, the measurements were counted in welfare checks, and the foundation was built on the cold, hard ground of public opinion that said a single mother with no job was a drain on the system. This is the blueprint of what is. But there is a second blueprint. This one is invisible to the outside world. It is the one you draw in the quiet, sovereign space of your own mind. It is the blueprint of what could be. While Rowling's body was living in a world of scarcity, her mind was inhabiting a world of limitless abundance. In the cafes of Edinburgh, rationing a single cup of coffee to stay warm, she was charting the corridors of a sprawling castle called Hogwarts. She was conducting an orchestra of unforgettable characters. She was building a world so detailed, so vibrant, and so real that it began to exert more gravitational pull on her than her own grim reality. This is the secret of the mindset foundation. It is the understanding that your external world is ultimately a lagging indicator of your internal one. Wealth is not a number you pursue, it is an outcome you attract by first becoming the architect of your own mind. You must learn to draw a blueprint of abundance so detailed and so compelling that it becomes the new governing reality of your life. But how do you do that when your current reality is screaming the opposite at you? You do it by understanding the old, faulty blueprint you've been given, and then deliberately, methodically overwriting it. The faulty blueprint, deconstructing your financial DNA. Like Rowling, you were handed a blueprint at birth. It was drafted by what you heard, what you saw, and what you experienced around money as a child. This programming runs your financial life on autopilot. Think about the verbal code you inherited. For Rowling, the verbal code of society was loud and clear: you're a failure. You're dependent. You have no prospects. For you, it may have been quieter, more subtle phrases repeated at the family dinner table. Phrases like, "We can't afford that," which codes your mind to see limits, not possibilities. Or, "Money is the root of all evil," which codes your mind to subconsciously push wealth away to protect you from becoming a bad person. Or, "You have to work hard for your money," which codes you to believe that wealth can only come from struggle, not from smart systems or creativity. These phrases are not harmless. They are the limiting parameters drawn onto your blueprint. Now think of the models you saw. Rowling saw a model of failure in her own life, and she had to make a conscious choice to reject it. Who were your models? Did you witness your parents fighting about bills, teaching you that money equals conflict? Did you see them spend impulsively, teaching you that money is for fleeting pleasure, not for building long-term freedom? Or did you see them hoard it fearfully, teaching you that money is a source of anxiety to be protected at all costs, never to be enjoyed or put to work? We are all mimics. We either directly copy the financial behavior we witnessed, or we become the polar opposite in a desperate act of rebellion. Either way, the old blueprint is still in control. Rowling's story is a masterclass in overwriting this programming. The world handed her a blueprint for a shack, but she picked up a pen and began drawing a castle. Her physical circumstances were a prison of scarcity, defined by what she lacked: money, heat, security, and professional success. But she refused to let her circumstances define her mental state. The world she was building in her mind was one of extraordinary abundance, filled with magic, friendship, courage, and infinite possibility. She made a choice that all wealthy individuals make, consciously or unconsciously. She decided that the vision in her mind was more real than the reality outside her window. This is not positive thinking. This is a profound shift in focus. It is the act of withdrawing your energy and attention from the blueprint of what is and investing it entirely into the blueprint of what could be. Rowling did this in the most practical way imaginable. She wrote. Every word she put on the page was an act of rebellion against her circumstances. Every chapter she finished was another stone laid in the foundation of her new reality. She wasn't just writing a book, she was drafting the new blueprint for her life. The world, of course, fought back. Her manuscript for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was rejected by 12 different publishing houses. Each rejection was a voice from the outside world trying to pull her back to the old blueprint. Each no was a confirmation of the failure script she was supposed to be following. This is the test. When your actions are met with rejection and resistance, which blueprint do you believe? The one the world is trying to force on you, or the one you have so carefully drawn in your own mind? Her belief in her internal blueprint was so unshakable that she persisted. Finally, a small publisher, Bloomsbury, agreed to a small print run. Even then, the chairman of the company told her that there's no money in children's books. The old blueprint was still trying to assert its authority. But it was too late. The blueprint in her mind was too powerful. It had already become a reality, and it was only a matter of time before the physical world caught up. And catch up it did, transforming the biggest failure she knew into one of the most beloved and wealthiest authors in human history. Becoming the Architect: How to Draw Your New Blueprint. Rowling's story is not a fairy tale. It is a practical, step-by-step guide to transforming your own financial reality. You may not be writing a billion-dollar novel, but the principles of the architect are the same. Step 1. Acknowledge the old blueprint. You cannot build over a faulty foundation. You must first inspect it. I want you to take some time and identify the limiting beliefs that have been drawn onto your blueprint. What did you hear about money growing up? What did you see your parents do? What painful or formative experiences did you have with money? Write them down. Acknowledge them. Look at the old, tattered blueprint given to you by circumstance, and make a conscious decision, right now, that it is no longer your plan. It is a historical document, not a map to your future. Step 2. Create a compelling vision. Rowling's vision of Hogwarts wasn't a vague wish for more money. It was a detailed, passionate, all-consuming world. You must do the same for your own life. What is the abundant reality you want to build? Don't just say, "I want to be rich." That's a blurry sketch. Be a detailed architect. How much income do your assets generate each month? What does your average Tuesday look like? Where do you live? What work do you do because you love it, not because you need a paycheck? What impact are you having on the world? Your vision must be so clear and so exciting that it generates its own energy. It must become the thing you think about when you wake up in the morning, the vision that pulls you through the hard days. Step 3. Reinforce the new blueprint daily. Rowling reinforced her new reality by writing every single day. You must reinforce yours through conscious, daily practice. This is where we use the power of declaration, not as a magical incantation, but as a focusing tool. Every day, you will declare the new truths of your blueprint to crowd out the lies of the old one. Place your hand on your heart and state these truths out loud. My past does not define my future. I am the architect of my life. I reject the blueprint of scarcity and lack. I am now drawing a blueprint of abundance, opportunity, and wealth. The success I see in others is a reflection of what is possible for me. My new blueprint is my true reality. It is only a matter of time before the physical world catches up. This is your work. This is the first and most important pillar. It is the deep, foundational labor that makes everything else possible. You must win the war in your mind before you can win it in the bank. Like Joanne Rowling, you may be in a cold room, facing a world that doesn't yet see your vision. But you have a sovereign power that no circumstance can take away, the power to pick up a pen and design a new world. Your mind is your drawing board. Your vision is your ink. You have now claimed your role as the architect. You have committed to drawing a blueprint of wealth and abundance so powerful that it will become your new reality. Now, it's time to learn the language of the world you are about to build. It's time to understand the critical, foundational difference between the flashy illusion of being rich and the quiet, unshakable power of being truly wealthy. Chapter 2: Rich versus Wealthy, the $1 Million Difference. Imagine being 19 years old. You've just been handed a check for several $1 million. This is the moment you have dreamed of, the culmination of a lifetime of work that began when you were just a boy. You are a professional basketball player, one of the elite few to make it to the NBA. The money is staggering, more than your entire family has ever seen. The cars, the houses, the adoration of fans, it's all yours. Over the next decade, you will earn more than $108 million. You are, by every definition, spectacularly rich. Now, I want you to ask yourself a terrifying question. How does a man who earned over $100 million end up standing in a courtroom with a net worth of negative $4,000, declaring bankruptcy? This is not a riddle. This is the true story of Antoine Walker. And his journey from the pinnacle of riches to the depths of financial ruin is the most important lesson you will ever learn about the profound, life-altering difference between being rich and being wealthy. In the last chapter, you committed to becoming the architect of your mind, to drawing a new blueprint of abundance. Now, we must define the structure you are going to build. And to do that, we must first understand the great deception that traps millions of people, from minimum wage earners to multimillionaire athletes, in a cycle of financial fragility. That deception is the belief that income equals wealth. Our society worships at the altar of income. We celebrate the high-paid lawyer, the bonus-laden executive, and the sports star with the jaw-dropping contract. We see their lifestyle, the sprawling mansions, the luxury cars, the designer clothes, and we call that success. That visible, flashy lifestyle is what it means to be rich. But there is a second, invisible scoreboard. It isn't measured by your monthly paycheck, it's measured on a simple sheet of paper. This is the scoreboard of the wealthy. And the story of Antoine Walker is the story of a man who was setting records on the first scoreboard while getting brutally crushed on the second. Let's step into his world. When Walker signed his first major contract, a river of money began to flow into his life. He did what any of us, without a proper financial education, would do. He started to live like a rich person. He bought what he wanted when he wanted it. He was famous for his custom-tailored suits, his extravagant jewelry, and his incredible car collection, which at one point included 2 Bentleys, 2 Mercedes, a Range Rover, and a custom-painted Maybach that cost over $400,000. He built a 10,000-square-foot mansion in Chicago with an indoor basketball court. He was generous, showering his friends and family with gifts and financial support. On the outside, he was living the dream. He was rich. But here is the secret that the wealthy understand. Your income is just the water flowing into a bucket. The real question is, how many holes are in your bucket? Walker's income was a fire hose, but his bucket was riddled with gaping holes. Every car, every piece of jewelry, every non-essential luxury was another hole, draining his resources. This brings us to the two most important words in your financial education: assets and liabilities. Robert Kiyosaki, in his classic book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, gave us the simplest and most powerful definitions ever written. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. It's that simple. The wealthy spend their lives acquiring assets. The poor and the middle class, including the rich, the ones like Antoine Walker, spend their lives acquiring liabilities that they think are assets. Walker's $400,000 Maybach was not an asset. It was a rapidly depreciating liability that cost a fortune in insurance, maintenance, and fuel. His mansion was not an asset. It was a liability that demanded huge mortgage payments, property taxes, and upkeep costs every single month. He was buying the lifestyle of the rich, but in the language of the wealthy, he was filling his life with financial anchors that were pulling him to the bottom of the ocean. This is the trap of lifestyle inflation. As Walker's income grew with each new contract, his spending grew even faster. This is the rat race, just on a much grander and faster scale. The more he earned, the more he spent, and the harder he had to work to maintain the spectacular lifestyle he had created. He was a prisoner of his own possessions. The quiet, often invisible, millionaire next door operates on a completely different principle. They understand that every dollar that comes in is a soldier. They can either send that soldier to a party where it will be consumed and disappear forever, or they can send it to an investment boot camp where it will learn to fight and bring back more soldiers in the form of interest, dividends, and profits. Antoine Walker was sending all his soldiers to a party. The future wealthy person is building an army. The two scoreboards, your income statement versus your balance sheet. Your income is your offense. It's how you score points. It's exciting, and it's what everyone in the stands is watching. But your net worth is your defense. It's the final score of the game. The wealthy are obsessed with their defense. Your net worth is the number you get when you subtract all of your liabilities, what you owe, from all of your assets, what you own. Assets, liabilities equals net worth. This is the true measure of your financial health. It is the secret scoreboard. A high-income professional with a huge mortgage, 2 car loans, and massive credit card debt can easily have a negative net worth. They are rich, but they are technically poorer than a student who has no debt and just $100 in their bank account. Antoine Walker's journey is a brutal lesson in this truth. After his playing career ended, the fire hose of income suddenly turned off. But the holes in his bucket, the mortgages, the insurance, the lifestyle costs, were still there. With no more money coming in to plug the leaks, the bucket emptied almost overnight. His bad investments in real estate, made with poor advice, collapsed. He was eventually forced to sell his championship ring. He went from a net worth of tens of millions to a net worth of less than zero. He had been playing the wrong game all along. The lesson he learned, at the cost of $108 million, is the lesson you must learn now. you must stop chasing a bigger income and start obsessing over a bigger net worth. You must shift your focus from looking rich to becoming wealthy. Becoming the CFO of your life, your first blueprint action. The tragedy of Antoine Walker's story is that it was entirely avoidable. He wasn't a bad person, he was financially uneducated. Today, your financial education begins. You will now become the Chief Financial Officer of You Incorporated. And a CFO has one primary job, to know the numbers, cold. Your first mission, calculate your net worth. This is your first act of defiance against the rich mindset. You will take out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, you will list every single one of your assets. Cash in your bank accounts. The value of your investment portfolio. The equity in your home, what it's worth minus what you owe. The value of any other significant possessions like a paid-off car. On the right side, you will list every single one of your liabilities. Your total credit card debt. Your car loan balance. Your student loan balance. Your mortgage and any other loans. Now, subtract the total of the right column from the total of the left. That number is your net worth. It is your starting point. It is not a measure of your worth as a human being. It is simply the true score of your financial game today. From this day forward, your primary mission is to make that number go up every single month. Your second mission, track your cash flow. A CFO must know where every dollar is going. For the next 30 days, you will track your spending. Use an app, a spreadsheet, or a notebook. This is not about creating a restrictive budget or feeling guilty. It is a simple act of awareness. It is about identifying the holes in your own bucket. You will uncover the unconscious spending habits, the forgotten subscriptions, and the lifestyle creep that are sabotaging your future. This act of tracking is the first step in taking conscious control of your money. Antoine Walker said in an interview after his bankruptcy, "I created a very expensive lifestyle." That's how you lose it all. He learned the hard way that the party of being rich is temporary, but the peace of being wealthy can be permanent. Wealth is not about the car you drive or the labels on your clothes. Wealth is about freedom. It is about security. It is about owning a collection of assets that can fund your life without you having to trade your time for it. The true definition of wealth is the number of days you could survive if you stopped working today. The goal is to make that number infinite. You now understand the profound difference between the flashy illusion of income and the quiet power of net worth. You know the real destination. Now, it's time to build the engine that will generate the capital to build that net worth, brick by brick. It's time to forge your primary engine. Chapter 3: Forging Your Primary Engine, Maximizing Your 9 out of 5. In the early 2010s, the technology giant Microsoft was lost in the wilderness. It was a battleship, immense and powerful, but it was fighting the last war. The world had moved on to smartphones and mobile computing, a revolution led by Apple and Google. Microsoft, the titan of the PC era, had become a punchline, a slow, bureaucratic, and internally combative company that was famous for fumbling the future. Its employees were known for fighting each other for promotions and resources more fiercely than they fought the competition. The company's stock had been flat for over a decade. It was a gilded cage, a comfortable place to collect a paycheck, but it was no longer the epicenter of innovation. Now, how does a company like that find its soul again? The answer didn't come from a visionary founder returning to the throne. It came from a quiet, Indian-born engineer who had been inside the company all along. His name is Satya Nadella, and his story is the ultimate blueprint for how to create entrepreneurial-level wealth and impact, not by leaving your job, but by fundamentally transforming it from the inside out. Welcome back to Pillar 2, the construction of your earning engine. In the last chapter, we established that the true goal is not a high income, but a high net worth. Your income is the raw material you will use to build that net worth. Therefore, the first and most critical step is to turn your primary source of income, your job, into a high-performance engine that generates the maximum possible surplus. Most people see their job as a transaction. They trade a set number of hours for a set number of dollars. This is the employee mindset. It is a mindset of limitation, of following instructions, and of staying within the safe confines of a job description. It is the mindset that pervaded Microsoft during its lost decade. But there is another way to see your job. You can see it as a business partnership. You are the CEO of You Incorporated, and your employer is your number one client. Your job is not to clock in and clock out. Your job is to deliver such an overwhelming return on your client's investment in you that they cannot afford to lose you. This is the entrepreneur mindset, and Satya Nadella's career is a masterclass in its execution. When Nadella joined Microsoft in 1992, he was just one of thousands of talented engineers. He didn't have a grand plan to become CEO. He had a simple, powerful philosophy that was radically different from the company's combative culture. While others were obsessed with getting promoted and defending their turf, Nadella was obsessed with two things: learning and empathy. He wanted to understand what customers really needed and learn everything he could to help solve their problems. He took on challenging, often unglamorous, assignments that others avoided. He moved from the Windows division to the server and tools business, and eventually to a fledgling project that was considered a risky sideshow at the time: cloud computing. This project would later become Microsoft Azure. While the rest of the company was fighting to protect the legacy of Windows, Nadella was quietly building the future. This is the first lesson of the entrepreneur: stop asking what your job requires, and start asking what your client needs. Your job description is the bare minimum. It is the C-grade work of your career. The A-grade work, the work that creates massive value and commands a massive income, is found in solving the biggest, most painful problems your company is facing, even if no one is asking you to. Nadella saw that the world was moving away from software installed on a single PC and towards services delivered over the Internet. This was a mortal threat to Microsoft's old business model. While others saw this as a problem to be defended against, he saw it as the single greatest opportunity for growth. He was focused on the 5% of activity that would generate 95% of the future results. He poured his energy into building the cloud, delivering overwhelming value to the company by solving their most critical strategic challenge. He was no longer just an engineer, he was a strategic business leader. Forging your irreplaceable edge, the skill stack. What allowed Nadella to see this opportunity and, more importantly, to execute on it? It wasn't just his engineering skill. It was his skill stack. In your career, it is incredibly difficult to be the absolute number one in the world at a single skill. But you can become exceptionally rare and valuable by becoming in the top 10% across a combination of several skills. This is your unique skill stack. Nadella was a brilliant technologist. That was his foundational skill. But he systematically added other skills to his stack. He developed deep business acumen, learning how to run a profit and loss statement and think like a CEO. He cultivated radical empathy, not just for customers but for colleagues, which allowed him to build bridges in a famously siloed company. He mastered strategic vision, looking beyond the next quarter to see where the industry was headed in the next decade. An engineer is valuable. An engineer who understands business is more valuable. An engineer who understands business, who can lead with empathy, and who can chart a strategic course for the future. That person is irreplaceable. Your job is a free university where you can build your own skill stack. Look around your company. What are the most valued skills outside of your immediate role? Is it public speaking? Project management? Data analysis? Copywriting? Volunteer for projects that will force you to learn those skills. Ask the top salesperson if you can buy them lunch to understand how they think. Use your company's training budget to take a course. Every skill you add to your stack doesn't just add to your value, it multiplies it. You are not just doing your job, you are getting paid to forge yourself into a more valuable human being. The ultimate negotiation, making yourself the obvious choice. By the time Microsoft's board was looking for a new CEO in 2014, Satya Nadella had made himself the obvious choice. He didn't need to engage in a traditional salary negotiation. He had spent the previous decade engaged in the ultimate form of negotiation, overwhelming value creation. He had taken the risky, overlooked cloud business and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar juggernaut that was now the undeniable future of the company. His leverage wasn't a list of demands, it was a track record of undeniable results. The board didn't choose him because he was a slick talker or a shrewd office politician. They chose him because he had already proven he could solve their biggest problem and lead them into the future. His reward was the top job at one of the world's most powerful companies and a compensation package that has since made him hundreds of millions of dollars. This is the secret to maximizing your income. You don't get what you asked for, you get what you have the leverage to command. Your leverage is the value you create. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to become so good at solving your company's problems that they would be insane to let you go, and foolish not to compensate you at the highest possible level. Your blueprint for becoming an entrepreneur. Satya Nadella's story is not an unattainable fairy tale. It is a strategic blueprint that you can begin applying to your own career tomorrow morning. Step 1. Become a problem hunter. Schedule a meeting with your boss. But instead of asking for a raise, ask this question: what are the top 3 biggest challenges or goals you are facing right now, and what is the single most important thing I could do to help you achieve them? This question immediately repositions you from a subordinate who needs managing to a strategic partner who can provide solutions. Stop thinking about your tasks and start hunting for your client's biggest problems. Step 2. Start your briefcase today. You must become the historian of your own success. Start a simple document on your computer and call it your briefcase. In it, you will document every single achievement. But you will not list your duties, you will quantify your results. Don't write, manage the social media account. Do write, overhaul the social media strategy in Q3, resulting in a 40% increase in qualified leads and contributing to an estimated $200,000 in new sales. Don't write, helped improve the billing process. Do write, identified and fixed an inefficiency in the billing process, reducing average invoice processing time by 2 days and saving the department approximately 25 hours of labor per month. This briefcase is the evidence you will use in your future salary negotiations. It is the undeniable proof of the massive ROI you are delivering to your client. Step 3. Treat your job as a launchpad, not a parking lot. This is the final, crucial mindset shift. Even as you strive to become the most valuable player in your current role, you must always remember that this job is not the final destination. It is the launch pad. It is the incubator where you are using your client's resources to build your most valuable asset, you incorporated. Your job is providing you with 3 critical resources for the wealth blueprint. 1. Capital. The maximized income you generate is the seed money for your investments and future ventures. 2. Skills. The skill stack you are building is not just for your employer, it is for your entire future. 3. Network. The people you meet are your future partners, clients, and mentors. Stop seeing your job as a cage that keeps you from your dreams. Start seeing it as the state-of-the-art training facility that is paying you to become strong enough, skilled enough, and capitalized enough to make those dreams a reality. You are not just earning a paycheck. You are funding your freedom. You now have the blueprint to transform your primary source of income into a high-performance engine. But a powerful engine is only the beginning. A true wealth machine has more than one. In the next chapter, we will take the surplus you are now generating and begin the exciting work of building your second engine, an independent pipeline of income that you control. Chapter 4: Building the Pipelines, Creating Income Streams That Flow. It's another sweltering day in Clearwater, Florida. The air is so thick with humidity you can wear it. A young woman named Sarah Blakely is sitting in her beat-up car, the air conditioning fighting a losing battle, psyching herself up to walk into another office building and try to sell a fax machine. Most of the time, she will be escorted out by security before she can even finish her pitch. It is a soul-crushing, door-to-door grind, and she knows, with every fiber of her being, that this is not what she is meant to do. She is a natural salesperson, but she is selling a product she doesn't believe in, on a path to a future she does not want. This is the reality of her single, fragile income stream. But a moment of simple frustration, born out of a desire to look good in a pair of white trousers, is about to change everything. How does a woman with no fashion experience, no business background, and just $5,000 in savings, turn a pair of pantyhose and some scissors into a billion-dollar global brand? This is the story of Spanx, and it is the blueprint for building your second engine. Welcome back to the Earning Engine. In the last chapter, you learned how to transform your primary job into a high-performance machine. You are now an entrepreneur, focused on creating so much value that you can command the maximum possible income. This is your primary engine. It is the stable, powerful core of your financial life. It pays the bills, provides security, and most importantly, it will now generate the surplus capital, the seed money, for your escape. But as we discussed, relying on a single engine, no matter how powerful, is a fragile strategy. The goal of the wealthy is to build a fleet. It is to construct multiple, independent pipelines of income that flow into your reservoir, ensuring that your financial well-being is never dependent on a single source. Sarah Blakely's story is the ultimate case study in using the stability of a primary engine to fund the construction of a revolutionary secondary one. The idea was born not in a boardroom, but out of a real-life annoyance. Sarah wanted to wear a new pair of cream-colored trousers, but everything she tried to wear underneath showed lines. Frustrated, she grabbed a pair of pantyhose, went into the bathroom with a pair of scissors, and cut the feet off. The top part did a brilliant job of smoothing everything out, but the legs kept rolling up her thighs all night. In that moment of frustration, she had an epiphany: this thing needs to be made. She had identified a need. It was a problem she had, and she instinctively knew that if she had it, millions of other women did too. This is the first and most critical lesson in building a new income stream: solve a real problem. Forget passion projects for a moment. Forget trying to invent the next big thing. The most successful businesses in the world start by solving a simple, nagging frustration. Sarah Blakely wasn't passionate about hosiery, she was passionate about feeling confident and comfortable in her clothes. For the next 2 years, while she continued to sell fax machines from 9 to 5, she began building her second engine during her nights and weekends. She took her entire life savings, $5,000, and invested it in her idea. She didn't take out a loan or seek investors. This is the second lesson: start small and use your primary engine to fund the test. Her sales job provided the financial stability to take this calculated risk. She wasn't betting the farm, she was betting her savings. Her journey was a masterclass in hustle. She drove from her home in Atlanta to North Carolina, the heart of America's hosiery industry, and went mill to mill, pitching her idea. She was turned away by every single one. They were used to dealing with massive companies, not a fax machine salesperson with a strange prototype. But she was relentless. Finally, one mill owner, who had initially rejected her, called her back. He said he had 2 daughters who told him her idea was brilliant, and he agreed to make her product. She spent her nights in the Georgia Tech Library researching patents so she could write her own application, saving $3,000 in legal fees. She obsessed over every detail, from the waistband design to the name Spanx, which she chose because it was fun and made people laugh. She even designed the bold, red packaging herself because she didn't have money for a design firm. She was using her drive time, the hours outside of her main job, with ferocious intensity. The launch and the 2-engine strategy. When she finally had a product, she started calling the top department stores in the country. She eventually got a meeting with a buyer from Neiman Marcus. To prove how well the product worked, she took the buyer into the ladies' restroom and changed into the white trousers and her Spanx prototype to show her the before and after effect. The buyer was sold. Spanx was going to be in 7 Neiman Marcus stores. But here is where the story gets really powerful. Sarah knew that just getting on the shelf wasn't enough. She called every friend she had and gave them money, asking them to go into those 7 stores and buy her product with enthusiasm. She wanted to create a buzz. Then came the breakthrough moment. She sent a gift basket of her products to Oprah Winfrey's stylist. A few weeks later, the Oprah Winfrey Show called. Spanx was going to be featured as one of Oprah's favorite things. The show aired, and the Spanx website, which Sarah had built herself, exploded. That year, she did $4 million in sales. The next year, $10 million. All while still, technically, having her fax machine sales job. It wasn't until the business was a proven, roaring success that she finally resigned. She had successfully used the stability of her primary engine to launch a secondary engine that was now a rocket ship. The blueprint for your pipeline. Sarah Blakely's story is not about luck, it is about a replicable process that you can apply to your own life. Let's analyze her business through the lens of a powerful pipeline. She solved a real need. It wasn't a hypothetical idea, it was a solution to a problem she and millions of others faced. She had control. By owning 100% of the company and writing her own patent, she was in complete control of her destiny. She had scale. Her product could be manufactured and sold to millions of customers worldwide. Her business was not limited by the number of hours she could personally work. It was separable from her time. Once the business was established with manufacturing and distribution, it could generate revenue without her physically making each product. This is the blueprint for a fast-lane business, a true pipeline of income. Now, how do you start building yours? Step 1. Find your cut-off pantyhose idea. Your mission for the next week is to become a problem hunter. Keep a notebook. What is a recurring annoyance in your own life? What do you wish existed? What service do you pay for that you think you could do better? What skill do you have from your day job that small businesses would pay you for on the side? Don't look for a $1 billion idea. Look for a $100 problem. Your first pipeline doesn't have to be a massive aqueduct, it can be a small garden hose. The goal is to get the water flowing. Step 2. Fund your prototype. What is the absolute minimum amount of money you need to create a testable version of your idea? Not the finished product, but a prototype. For Sarah, it was her $5,000 savings. For you, it might be $200 to build a simple website, or $50 to run a few social media ads to test a service idea. Use the surplus from your primary engine to fund this test. Do not go into debt. Step 3. Reclaim your time. Sarah Blakely had the same 24 hours in a day as everyone else. She chose to use her nights and weekends to build her future. You must do the same. This is your sacrifice. It's the price of admission to a life of freedom. Audit your time. How many hours a week do you spend on low-value activities like scrolling social media or binge-watching television? Reclaim just 5 of those hours a week and dedicate them, with religious intensity, to building your pipeline. 5 focused hours a week is 260 hours a year, the equivalent of more than 6 full-time work weeks. You have the time. Your primary engine, your job, is your foundation. It provides the stability and the capital. Your secondary engine, your side hustle, is your escape route. It is the vehicle you are building in the garage after work, the one that will eventually give you the freedom to drive wherever you want. Sarah Blakely didn't just build a shapewear company. She built a life of her own design. She proved that a single idea, fueled by the stability of a day job and forged with relentless hustle, can change the world. You have now learned how to build and maximize your earning engine. You have a plan to generate a significant surplus. But generating this capital is only the first half of the equation. If this money sits idle, it is worthless. You must now learn how to put it to work. You must learn how to turn your income into an army that fights for you. It's time to build the most magical part of your entire fortress. It's time to construct Pillar 3, the growth system. Chapter 5, the 8th wonder of the world, putting your money to work. In the small town of Brattleboro, Vermont, there lived a man named Ronald Red. To his neighbors, he was a fixture of the community, a quiet and unassuming man. They knew him as the guy who worked as a janitor at the local JCPenney, mopping floors and cleaning windows. Before that, he'd spent 25 years working at a gas station, pumping gas and fixing cars. He drove a second-hand Toyota Yaris and was known for his frugal habits, like using safety pins to hold his old flannel coat together. He was a kind man, a private man, a man who, by all outside appearances, lived a life of humble means. In 2014, Ronald Reed died at the age of 92. And when his will was read, this tiny town in Vermont was rocked by a secret that would make headlines around the world. Ronald Red, the janitor, the gas station attendant, had secretly amassed a fortune of over $8 million. How? How did a man who never earned a high salary in his life build more wealth than countless doctors, lawyers, and executives? The answer is not a lottery ticket or a hidden inheritance. The answer is that this quiet, unassuming man had harnessed the most powerful force in the financial universe. Welcome to Pillar 3, the growth system. You have now learned how to build a powerful earning engine, a system for generating surplus capital. This is a monumental achievement. But the capital you generate is just potential energy. It is a pile of seeds in a barn. Left alone, they will rot. But if you plant those seeds in fertile ground and give them time, they can grow into a vast and mighty forest. That fertile ground is the market, and the miracle of growth is compounding. The story of Ronald Read is the single greatest lesson in compounding you will ever hear, because it demolishes every excuse that holds people back. It is the story of how the smallest of seeds, planted early and left undisturbed for a very long time, can grow into a fortune. For decades, Ronald Read lived on a modest income. But he had a secret habit. After his shift, he would go to the local library and read the Wall Street Journal. He studied the great businesses of America. And with what little money he could scrape together, he would buy shares in those businesses. He wasn't a trader. He wasn't a speculator trying to time the market. He was a patient, long-term owner. He bought stocks in companies he understood, companies that were a part of his everyday life: Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Colgate-Palmolive, CVS. And then, he did the hardest part: nothing. He held on to those shares for decades. This is where the magic begins. He was employing an unseen army. Every dollar he invested in a company like Johnson & Johnson became a tiny soldier. That soldier's job was to work inside the company to help generate a profit. At the end of the quarter, the company would take a portion of its profits and send it back to Ronald as a dividend. This was the wage his soldier had earned. What did he do with this wage? He didn't spend it. He immediately used it to hire a new soldier. He reinvested every single dividend. Those new soldiers also started earning wages, which were then used to hire even more soldiers. This is compounding. His army started small, a tiny platoon that was barely noticeable. But slowly, then steadily, then exponentially, his army grew. The soldiers he bought in the 1960s had hired entire battalions of new soldiers by the 1980s. Those battalions grew into regiments. By the time of his death, Ronald Read, the quiet janitor, was the general of a vast, multi-million-dollar army that was working for him around the clock, generating wealth while he slept. The levers of the growth machine, a janitor's secret. Ronald Read's story perfectly illustrates the three levers of the compounding machine. Understanding them reveals why his strategy was so devastatingly effective. Lever 1: Capital. This is the amount of money you invest. For Ronald Read, this amount was small. It was whatever he could save from a laborer's wage. His story proves, beyond any doubt, that the amount of money you start with is the least important variable in the long-term wealth equation. Lever 2: Rate of return. This is the percentage your money grows each year. Ronald wasn't a genius investor chasing spectacular returns. He simply bought shares in stable, profitable companies and earned a reasonable, market-average rate of return over the long run. He didn't need to hit home runs, he just needed to consistently get on base. Lever 3: Time. This was Ronald Read's superpower. This was his secret weapon. He started investing and stayed invested for more than 50 years. Time is the magical ingredient that ignites the exponential growth of compounding. It is the long, snowy hill that allowed his tiny snowball to grow into an avalanche. Let's look at the brutal, beautiful math. If you invest $5,000 and it earns a 10% return, you have $5,500 after 1 year, a gain of $500. Not very exciting. But if you let that money ride for 50 years, earning an average of 10% a year, what do you have? over $586,000. The last double alone, from year 43 to year 50, would have been worth more than all the growth of the first 25 years combined. This is why the cost of waiting is so catastrophic. The years you miss at the beginning are the most valuable and irreplaceable years of all. They are the years when your snowball is at the very top of the longest part of the hill. If Ronald Read had waited until he was 45 instead of starting in his 30s, his $8 million fortune might have been less than $2 million. That single decade of procrastination would have cost him $6 million. This is why you must not wait. Not another month. Not another week. You must start now. The Rule of 72, the simple math behind the secret. How can you make this power tangible in your own life? There's a simple mental tool called the Rule of 72. It's a shortcut to estimate how long it will take for your money to double. You just divide the number 72 by the annual rate of return you expect to earn. If your money is in a bank account earning 1%, it will take 72 years to double. This is a losing game. If you invest and earn an average of 10% per year, the historical average of the stock market, it will take 72 divided by 10, or just 7.2 years, for your money to double. Think about that. At 10%, your money doubles roughly every 7 years. This is the simple math that was working in the background of Ronald Read's life. He wasn't a math genius, but he instinctively understood the principle. He knew that by owning pieces of great American businesses, he was harnessing a growth rate that was far more powerful than the silent thief of inflation. He was on the right side of the doubling clock. The blueprint for your own unseen army. Ronald Read's story is not a quaint anomaly. It is a formula. It is a repeatable blueprint that proves that the path to wealth is open to everyone, regardless of their income. The principles he used are the same principles you will use, just with more modern and efficient tools. 1. Start now, not when it's enough. The single most common and destructive excuse for not investing is the belief that you need a lot of money to start. Ronald Read demolishes this excuse. He started with what he had. Today, you can open an investment account and start with as little as $5. The amount is irrelevant. The act of starting is everything. You must get your snowball rolling down the hill today. 2. Automate your discipline. Ronald Read's secret was his incredible, lifelong discipline. He saved consistently and invested patiently for decades. Today, we don't have to rely on sheer willpower. We can use technology to automate that discipline. As we'll discuss in the next chapter, you can set up a system where a portion of your income is automatically transferred to your investment account every single month, without you even thinking about it. You can build a fortress of discipline that even the most impulsive person can follow. 3. Embrace the boring. Ronald Read didn't get rich chasing hot stocks, speculating on new trends, or day trading. His portfolio was filled with boring, predictable, dividend-paying companies. His great insight was that building wealth should be a boring, almost invisible process. The excitement in your life should come from your family, your work, your hobbies, and your contributions to the world. Your investment strategy should be as boring and as reliable as watching paint dry. The eighth wonder of the world is not a complex formula reserved for the elite. It is a simple, democratic force of nature. Compounding is the great financial equalizer. It is the power that allowed a humble janitor from Vermont, through a lifetime of quiet patience, to build an extraordinary legacy of wealth and generosity. He proved that the most important factor in the wealth equation is not the size of your income, but the length of your timeline. You now understand this incredible power. You feel the urgency of time. You have rejected the foolish notion of letting your money sleep, and you are ready to put it to work. You are ready to start building your own unseen army, $1 at a time. In the next chapter, we move from the inspiring whys to the beautifully simple how. I will give you the clear, modern blueprint for building your own automatic wealth machine, a system that allows you to harness this power simply and effectively. It's time to install the engine of growth. Chapter 6: The Automatic Wealth Machine: How to Invest Simply and Effectively. The year is 1951. A young, fiercely intelligent Princeton University student named John C. Bogle is hunched over a desk, deep in research for his senior thesis. He is studying the mutual fund industry, the primary way that everyday Americans were told they could invest their money. As he pores over decades of data, a shocking and heretical truth begins to emerge, a truth that would define the rest of his life and spark a revolution. He discovered that the vast majority of these funds, run by the highest-paid experts on Wall Street, were not only failing to beat the market averages, but they were also charging their investors a fortune for the privilege of underperforming. He had stumbled upon the great deception at the heart of the financial world. How did this one man's college paper ignite a 50-year crusade against the giants of Wall Street? How did his simple, radical idea save everyday investors trillions of dollars and create the single greatest wealth-building tool in history? This is the story of Bogle's folly, and it is the blueprint for your automatic wealth machine. Welcome back to the growth system. In the last chapter, you learned about the awesome, silent power of compounding, the force that turned a janitor's humble savings into an $8 million fortune. You now understand the urgent why of investing. Now, we turn to the beautifully simple how. The world of investing is designed to intimidate you. It's a cacophony of noise, jargon, and complexity, all created with one purpose: to convince you that you are not smart enough to manage your own money. It's a casino where the house, in this case, the financial industry, has rigged the game to ensure it always wins through fees, commissions, and trading costs. For decades, the central myth of this casino was the expert fund manager, the supposed genius who could pick the winning stocks and beat the market. It was this very myth that Jack Bogle's research shattered. His thesis proved, with cold, hard data, that these geniuses were, for the most part, failing. Their attempts to be clever, to jump in and out of stocks, to predict the future, were being cancelled out by their own bad timing and, more importantly, eaten alive by the high fees they were charging. They were playing a loser's game. Armed with this knowledge, Bogle entered the financial industry, but he was a man with a dangerous idea. He rose through the ranks of a traditional investment firm, but his constant push for lower fees and a focus on investor interests eventually led to his ousting. He was fired for being a heretic. This moment of exile, however, was the catalyst for his revolution. In 1975, he decided to build a new kind of company, a company founded on his simple, powerful, and deeply contrarian idea. The idea was this: stop trying to beat the market. Just buy the market. This was financial heresy. The entire multi-billion-dollar investment industry was built on the promise of beating the market. Bogle's idea was a direct assault on their value proposition. He argued, instead of paying an expert to look for the needle in the haystack, why don't we just buy the whole haystack? And so, he created the world's first index fund, which would simply buy and hold all the stocks in a major market index, like the S&P 500. It wouldn't trade. It wouldn't speculate. It would simply own a tiny piece of the 500 biggest companies in America and patiently hold on. Because it was a simple, automated strategy, it could be run with microscopic costs. In 1976, Bogle launched his new company, Vanguard, and its first index fund. The industry laughed. They ridiculed him, calling his invention Bogle's folly. It was mocked as a strategy that was guaranteed to be average. It was even called un-American. But Bogle knew the truth. In a game where the vast majority of players were losing to the average, guaranteed average was a guaranteed win. The blueprint of the machine, Bogle's 3 revolutionary principles. Jack Bogle's life's work provides us with the 3 core principles for our own automatic wealth machine. 1. Buy the haystack, not the needle. An index fund is the simplest, most effective investment vehicle ever created for the average person. It grants you instant diversification. With a single purchase of a total stock market index fund, you become a part owner of thousands of the most innovative and profitable companies in the world. You are not betting on the success of a single company, which is a risky gamble. You are betting on the long-term progress of the entire global economy. As human ingenuity solves problems and creates value, the value of your haystack grows with it. 2. The tyranny of costs, minimize fees at all costs. Bogle's true crusade was against high fees. He called it the tyranny of compounding costs. It sounds like a small thing, a 1% or 2% annual fee. But Bogle understood the math. Let me show you the devastating impact of that small fee. Imagine you invest $100,000 for 30 years and earn an average 8% annual return. If you are in a low-cost index fund with a fee of 0.1%, your investment grows to approximately $950,000. Now, imagine your friend invests the same amount in a traditional, actively managed fund with a 2% annual fee. That small 2% fee reduces their net return to 6%. After 30 years, their investment grows to just $574,000. That tiny 2% fee didn't just cost them a little bit each year. It consumed nearly $400,000 of their final nest egg. It is a silent robbery. Bogle built his company, Vanguard, with a revolutionary structure where the investors are the owners, a design with the sole purpose of driving costs down to the bone. His life's work was to ensure that you get to keep the returns your money earns, not the casino. 3. The courage to do nothing. Bogle preached that the greatest enemy of the investor is not the market, it is themselves. It's the emotional impulse to do something in response to scary headlines or exciting fads. His advice was radical in its simplicity. After you set up your automated investment plan into low-cost index funds, the best thing you can do is have the courage to do nothing. Don't peek. Don't trade. Don't listen to the noise. Let your boring machine do its work, and get on with the exciting business of living your life. Building wealth, he argued, should be a boring, long-term process. Over the decades, Bogle's folly was proven to be the Bogle's triumph. Trillions of dollars have flowed into low-cost index funds. His simple, elegant idea has become the default investment strategy for the most sophisticated investors in the world. His crusade saved everyday people more money than anyone else in history. Your blueprint for using Bogle's weapon. Jack Bogle fought the war so you wouldn't have to. He built this incredible tool for you. Now, here is the simple, 4-step process for putting his revolutionary idea to work in your own life. Step 1. Open your barracks. Your first step is to open a brokerage account. This is your barracks, where you will train and house your army of dollars. You can do this online in about 15 minutes with a low-cost provider like Vanguard, Fidelity, or Charles Schwab. You can open several types of accounts, but the most common are a standard brokerage account and tax-advantaged retirement accounts like a Roth IRA or a 401k through your employer. Step 2. Choose your haystack. Do not get lost in the casino of a million choices. Your mission is simple. You will choose one or two broad market, low-cost index funds. A great starting point for most people is a total stock market index fund or an S&P 500 index fund. If you want global diversification, you can add a total international stock market index fund. For ultimate simplicity, you can choose a single target date index fund designed for your approximate retirement year. That is it. Your choice is made. Step 3. Automate your reinforcements. This is the key to making the system run without you. You will set up an automatic contribution from your bank account to your brokerage account every single month or every single payday. This is the principle of dollar-cost averaging we have discussed. This single action turns you into a disciplined, emotionless investing genius. You will automatically buy more shares when the market is on sale and fewer when it is expensive. Step 4. Adopt the Bogle mindset. Once your automatic wealth machine is running, your job is to adopt the mindset of its creator. You must have the courage and conviction to ignore the noise. When the market panics, you will do nothing. When a new investment fad sweeps the nation, you will do nothing. When the experts on TV tell you to sell, you will do nothing. You will let your simple, boring, automated system do its work, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. This is the hardest part, and it is also the part that will make you wealthy. The secret to successful investing is not about having a higher IQ. It's not about finding a secret formula. It's about having the discipline to ignore the casino's siren song and stick to a simple, proven plan. Thanks to the lifelong crusade of Jack Bogle, you have access to that plan. You have now connected your powerful earning engine to an automatic growth system. The walls of your castle are rising, and the treasury is compounding day and night. But a great fortune is not just built, it must be protected. It is now time to build the final pillar of your fortress. It is time to build your defensive wall. Chapter 7. Building your fortress, defeating debt and preparing for storms. At 26 years old, he was a millionaire. By his own account, he was cocky, arrogant, and felt completely invincible. He had started with nothing, and through a series of brilliant real estate deals, had built a portfolio worth over $4 million. He had the big house, the Jaguar, the Rolex watches, all the trappings of a man who had cracked the code. He was a master of the deal, borrowing more and more money from the banks to buy more and more properties, leveraging his success to build an empire on a foundation of debt. And why not? The banks were happy to lend it, and he was making everyone rich. Then, one day, the phone rang. It was the bank. They had been sold to a larger institution, and the new owners were calling the note. He had 90 days to pay back a $1.2 million loan. Soon, another bank called, and another. His entire house of cards, built on the arrogant assumption that the money would never stop, was about to come crashing down. How does a young real estate tycoon lose everything and end up bankrupt by age 30? More importantly, what is the brutal, timeless lesson he learned in the crucible of that failure? This is the story of the birth of a battle plan, and it is the blueprint for your financial fortress. Welcome to Pillar 4, the defensive wall. Up to this point, our focus has been almost entirely on offense. We've built your earning engine to score points, and your growth system to multiply those points on the scoreboard. This is the exciting, glamorous part of the game. But as any championship coach will tell you, a spectacular offense with no defense is a recipe for a heartbreaking loss. The story of that young real estate millionaire is the ultimate proof of this principle. He was a genius at offense. He knew how to find deals, negotiate, and generate massive income. But he was a complete amateur at defense. He had no concept of risk management, no protection against the unexpected, and no fortress to protect him from the storms of life. His story proves that it doesn't matter how much money you make. If your defense is weak, you can lose it all, and faster than you ever thought possible. Today, we build your defense. We learn the lessons that man learned through years of pain, stress, and humiliation, so that you never have to. The two faces of debt, the tool and the trap. That young man believed, as many people do, that there is such a thing as good debt. He was using the bank's money, what's called leverage, to buy properties that were going up in value. On paper, it was a brilliant strategy. But he failed to understand that debt is a dangerous tool. It is a double-edged sword that magnifies both your gains and your losses. When things were good, debt made him richer faster. But when the tide turned, when the banks changed their minds, that same debt became a merciless trap that destroyed him. This is the first lesson from the ashes. You must learn to see debt for what it truly is. There is bad debt, which we can define as the trap. This is the debt used to buy things that go down in value or are consumed entirely. It's the credit card you used for a holiday, the loan on your rapidly depreciating car, the financing on your new sofa. This debt is a cancer. It is a mathematically guaranteed way to make yourself poorer. Every payment you make on this kind of debt is a portion of your life force being sent back in time to pay for a decision you made in the past. It is a chain, and our mission is to break it. And then there is the debt our young millionaire used, which we can call leveraged debt. This is the tool. It's debt used to buy an asset you hope will go up in value. While it can be used to build wealth, it is also a powerful accelerant for financial ruin. It is playing with fire. What that young man learned is that when you borrow money, you are no longer the master of your own fate. Your destiny is in the hands of the lender. At any moment, the bank can change the rules, and you are powerless. The blueprint you are building is a blueprint for freedom and control. Therefore, the foundational principle of your defensive wall is to get to a place where you owe nothing to anyone. Where you are the king or queen of your own castle, and no banker can ever knock on your door and take it away. Forged in fire, the battle plan for freedom. After losing everything, that young man and his wife hit rock bottom. The stress almost destroyed their marriage. The humiliation was immense. They were bankrupt. They were forced to start over, but this time, they decided to do it differently. They started studying timeless, simple principles about how to handle money. And out of the pain of their catastrophic failure, they forged a simple, step-by-step battle plan. This plan wasn't born in a business school classroom, it was forged in the fire of real-life financial ruin. It is the plan you will now use to build your own fortress. Step 1. Build a starter moat, $1,000 emergency fund. The first thing that man realized was his complete vulnerability. When the banks called, he had no cash, no buffer, no options. He was completely exposed. He vowed he would never be in that position again. Your first defensive move is to build a starter moat. This is a fund of $1,000 in cash, saved as quickly as possible. This is your number one priority. Before you aggressively attack your debt, you must have this small buffer. Why? Because life is going to happen. The dishwasher will leak. The car will need new tires. Without this fund, any small emergency will send you right back to using a credit card, and you'll be trapped in the cycle. This $1,000 is your shock absorber. It is the money that says, never again. Step 2. Launch the assault, the debt snowball. With their starter emergency fund in place, the man and his wife listed out all their creditors. They didn't have millions in real estate debt anymore. They had the gritty, humiliating debt of survival, credit cards, small personal loans, bills they couldn't pay. They decided to attack the debt with the smallest balance first, regardless of the interest rate. They needed a win. They needed to feel a glimmer of hope. This is the debt snowball method. You pay the minimum payment on all your debts, and you throw every spare dollar you can find at the smallest one. Once it is paid off, you free up its minimum payment, and you roll that amount, plus everything else you were paying, into a larger snowball that you now hurl at the next smallest debt. This method is a behavioral masterpiece. Paying off that first, small debt gives you an incredible psychological boost. You feel a sense of control for the first time. That momentum propels you into the next debt, and the next. The snowball gets bigger and bigger, moving faster and faster, until you are an unstoppable debt-destroying machine. This is how you win the war, not with complex math, but with focused intensity and the power of small victories. Step 3. Build your fortress walls, the fully funded emergency fund. Once you have fought your way out of all non-mortgage debt, the war is not over. You have cleared the battlefield, but now you must build your permanent fortress walls. You now take the entire, massive debt snowball payment you were making each month, and you redirect it into building your fully funded emergency fund. This is a cash reserve of 3 to 6 months of your essential living expenses. This is the number that allows you to sleep at night. This is the money that allows you to look your boss in the eye and know that you don't need this job. This is the fund that turns a job loss from a life-destroying catastrophe into an inconvenient but manageable transition. It is the bedrock of financial security, a deep moat of cash that protects your castle from the fires, floods, and famines of life. You will keep this money in a simple, high-yield savings account. It is not an investment, it is insurance. It is the price you pay for peace. The man who lost everything followed this exact plan. He and his wife worked relentlessly, paid off all their debt, built their emergency fund, and slowly, methodically, began to rebuild their wealth. But this time, they built it on a foundation of solid rock, not the shifting sands of debt. That man, Dave Ramsey, would go on to teach this simple, hard-won plan to millions of people, helping them escape the same traps that had once destroyed him. His pain is your prevention. His failure is your formula. You do not need to lose millions to learn this lesson. You can learn it right now. Your fortress is waiting to be built. The moat is waiting to be dug. The walls are waiting to be raised. You now have the battle plan to protect yourself from the greatest external threat to your wealth. You have a system to eliminate the chains of your past and to build a wall of security against the storms of the future. But there is one final threat we must guard against. It is not the banks. It is not a job loss. It is the enemy within. In our final chapter, we will build the watchtowers and learn to defend our minds from the unforced errors and emotional traps that can bring even the most well-constructed fortress crashing down. Chapter 8: The Unforced Errors, Avoiding the Traps That Destroy Wealth. Picture a room in Greenwich, Connecticut, in the mid-1990s. This room contains arguably the most financial brainpower ever assembled under one roof. At the head of the table sit Myron Scholes and Robert C. Merton, two economists on the verge of winning the Nobel Prize for co-authoring the modern formulas for pricing financial risk. They are key partners in a financial dream team assembled by the legendary former Salomon Brothers bond trader, John Meriwether. Their hedge fund, Long-Term Capital Management, or LTCM, was seen as a miracle. It was a black box of genius, a money printing machine that used complex computer models to place bets so sophisticated, no one else could understand them. They hadn't just mastered the game of money, they believed they had solved it. How did this specific team, led by Meriwether and powered by the Nobel-winning intellect of Scholes and Merton, end up losing over $4.5 billion in just 4 months and bringing the world to the brink of financial collapse? The answer is the final and most important lesson in protecting your wealth. Welcome to the watchtower of your financial fortress. You have done all the hard work. Your foundation is laid, your engines are built, your growth machine is running, and your defensive walls against debt and emergencies are secure. From this high vantage point, your castle looks magnificent and strong. But I must warn you of one final enemy. This enemy cannot be stopped by stone walls or deep moats. It does not attack with swords or siege engines. It attacks from within. The greatest threat to your long-term wealth is not a market crash or a bad economy. It is you. It is the emotional, impulsive, and often irrational part of your own mind. It is the unforced errors of judgment driven by the twin demons of fear and greed. The story of long-term capital management is the ultimate cautionary tale of what happens when brilliant intellect, untempered by emotional discipline and profound humility, goes catastrophically wrong. The men at LTCM were, by any objective measure, geniuses. John Meriwether had assembled a team of Wall Street's brightest traders. The presence of Myron Scholes and Robert Merton gave the fund an aura of academic invincibility. They were not just guessing, they were using their Nobel Prize-winning formulas, the very bedrock of modern financial theory, to build their models. Their strategy was to use powerful computer models to identify tiny, fleeting pricing mistakes in the global bond markets. They would then use massive amounts of borrowed money, leverage, to place a gigantic bet on these tiny imperfections correcting themselves. For a time, the machine worked flawlessly. They generated spectacular returns, becoming the envy of the financial world. Their fatal flaw was not in their intelligence, but in their arrogance. They believed their mathematical models had made them infallible, that they had tamed the wild beast of risk. Their models were built on a decade of historical data, and in that data, a certain global crisis was a 10,000-year event, meaning it was statistically impossible that it would happen in their lifetime. They had built the perfect ship, designed to sail perfectly on the seas of the past. They just weren't prepared for a hurricane. Then, in August of 1998, the impossible hurricane made landfall. Russia defaulted on its government bonds. It was a black swan event, something so far outside the realm of their models that their system couldn't comprehend it. Panic ripped through the global financial markets. And in a panic, investors do not behave like rational actors in the formulas created by Scholes and Merton. They behave like a stampeding herd. All of the tiny price gaps that LTCM had bet on closing did not close, they widened to a terrifying degree. All of their thousands of carefully balanced, uncorrelated bets all went wrong at the exact same time. The leverage that had been their engine of success became their instrument of ruin. It magnified their losses at a catastrophic rate. In a matter of weeks, the fund was in a death spiral, losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day. The fund was so large and so interconnected with every major bank on Wall Street that its collapse threatened to trigger a chain reaction that could bring down the entire global financial system. The geniuses had failed, and they had failed so spectacularly that the U.S. Federal Reserve had to orchestrate a secret $3.6 billion bailout to prevent a global depression. The blueprint for your defense: lessons from the ashes of genius. The story of LTCM's collapse is the best news you will ever hear as an individual investor. It proves, beyond any doubt, that success in this game is not about being the smartest person in the room. It is not about having a complex, secret formula. It is about mastering a few simple, timeless principles and having the emotional discipline to stick with them. Here are the final defensive principles for your blueprint, learned from the failure of the world's greatest financial minds. 1. Embrace simplicity, fear complexity. The downfall of LTCM was its complexity. The strategy conceived by Meriwether, Scholes, and Merton was so intricate that even their own investors didn't fully understand it. This is your first and most powerful lesson: complexity is the enemy. Your simple, elegant, low-cost index fund strategy is the polar opposite of what LTCM was doing. It is your shield against the kind of hubris that brought them down. Your mantra must always be: if you cannot explain an investment to a reasonably intelligent person in 2 minutes, you have no business owning it. The financial industry will try to sell you complex, high-fee products. You will resist, armed with the knowledge that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. 2. You cannot time the market. Stop trying. The computer models of LTCM were the most sophisticated market timing tools ever created. They were designed to predict the short-term movements of the market. And they failed. Their failure is the final proof that no one, not you, not me, not a Nobel laureate, can consistently predict what the market will do tomorrow, next week, or next year. You must surrender the need to be a prophet. This is why the automatic, dollar-cost averaging strategy we built in Chapter 6 is so powerful. It frees you from the impossible task of timing the market. It ensures you are consistently buying, turning the market's unpredictable volatility into your long-term friend. 3. Humility is your greatest asset. The fatal flaw of John Meriwether and his team was their arrogance. They believed they were smarter than the market. They believed their models could eliminate risk. They had no humility. The final principle of your defensive wall is to cultivate a deep sense of financial humility. You must accept that you do not know what the future holds. You must accept that there will be market crashes. You must accept that there will be years where your portfolio goes down. Your success will be determined not by your brilliance in the good years, but by your steadfast, humble patience during the bad years. The final shield: boring, beautiful insurance. This mindset of humility leads us to the final, practical layer of your defensive wall: insurance. Insurance is the ultimate act of financial humility. It is the quiet admission that you cannot predict or prevent every disaster, so you must have a shield in place to protect your fortress from a catastrophic blow. It is the most boring topic in this entire audiobook, and it is one of the most important. You must ensure you have the 4 essential shields. Health insurance, to protect you from a medical event that could cause bankruptcy. Term life insurance, to protect your family if you are no longer there to provide for them. Disability insurance, to protect your single greatest asset, your ability to earn an income. Property and liability insurance, to protect your physical assets and guard you against lawsuits. Paying your insurance premiums is the price of sleeping soundly at night. It is the boring but essential task that allows your exciting growth machine to compound, safe behind the walls of your fortress. Your blueprint, your future, a life of wealth, not just riches. We have reached the end of our journey together. We have laid out the complete blueprint for a life of financial freedom. We started by becoming the architect of our minds, replacing a faulty blueprint of scarcity with a powerful vision of abundance. We then built our earning engine, transforming our jobs into launch pads and building independent pipelines of income. We connected that engine to an automatic growth system, a quiet machine that harnesses the eighth wonder of the world to build our wealth while we sleep. And finally, we have built our defensive wall, a fortress of security against debt, emergencies, and our own worst emotional impulses. The goal of this blueprint was never to simply help you accumulate the biggest pile of money. Money is just a tool. The goal is to use that tool to build a life of profound freedom, security, and choice. It is the freedom to own your time, the only asset that can never be recovered. It is the security of knowing that you and your family are protected from the storms of life. And it is the choice to pursue work that fills you with joy, to be outrageously generous, and to live a life that is in perfect alignment with your deepest values. This is the definition of a wealthy life. It is not found in a flashy car or a big house. It is found in a quiet sense of peace, a deep sense of purpose, and the absolute ownership of your days. The blueprint is now in your hands. The knowledge is yours. But it is just a stack of papers until the builder gets to work. The work begins now. Stop listening. Start building. Conclusion: your blueprint, your future. The blueprint is now complete. The final lines have been drawn, the last notations made. I want you to take a moment and feel the weight of it in your mind. Think back to the person you were when you first pressed play on this audiobook. You likely stood on an empty plot of land, filled with a mix of hope, confusion, and perhaps a healthy dose of fear. Now, look at what stands before you. You have the complete architectural plans for a magnificent fortress of financial freedom. You understand the composition of the soil, the depth of the foundation, the engineering of the engine, the physics of the growth machine, and the geometry of the defensive walls. But what good is a blueprint without a builder? What good are the world's greatest architectural plans left to gather dust on a shelf? This is not the end of your journey. This is the true beginning. You came here seeking knowledge, and I have given you the integrated system, the proven blueprint that has created lasting wealth for generations. But knowledge alone is powerless. It is potential energy, waiting for a spark. The action you take in the next 24 hours, and every day thereafter, is the spark that will transform this potential into the kinetic reality of a life you command. You are no longer just a student. Today, you become the architect and the master builder of your own destiny. The work will be hard. It will demand discipline when you feel lazy, courage when you feel fearful, and patience when you feel impatient. There will be days when the walls seem to rise too slowly, when storms rage, and when you are tempted to take a foolish shortcut. In those moments, you will return to this blueprint. It will be your map, your compass, and your constitution. Let's look at the 4 pillars one last time, not as chapters in a book, but as the 4 cornerstones of your new operating system for life. The first pillar, your mindset foundation, is now your permanent lens on the world. You will no longer see life through the constricted, fearful eyes of a consumer. You will see it through the expansive, optimistic eyes of a producer and an owner. You understand that your thoughts create your reality, and you have committed to being the vigilant landlord of your mind, evicting the tenants of scarcity and doubt, and welcoming in the architects of abundance and possibility. This is no longer something you try to do, it is who you are. The second pillar, your earning engine, is now your machine of value creation. You will no longer passively trade your precious time for a paycheck. You see your job for what it is, a launchpad to acquire capital, skills, and connections. You are an entrepreneur, a CEO of You Incorporated, relentlessly focused on delivering value. And you will not stop there. You are now a pipeline builder, restlessly seeking out problems to solve and systems to create, knowing that every new income stream you build is another thread in your safety net of freedom. The third pillar, your growth system, is your silent, tireless partner. You have rejected the foolishness of letting your money sleep in the graveyard of a savings account. You have exited the Wall Street casino for good. You now understand that the secret to winning is to own the whole haystack, not to search for the needle. You have built an automatic wealth machine, a vast and growing army of invested dollars that fights for your freedom every second of every day, turning volatility into opportunity and time into wealth. And the fourth pillar, your defensive wall, is your fortress of security. You have declared total war on the tyranny of consumer debt, breaking the chains of your past mistakes. You have built a moat of emergency savings that protects you from the inevitable storms of life. You have a shield of insurance to deflect the catastrophic blows. You no longer live with that low-grade financial anxiety because you have replaced fear with preparation and hope with a plan. This is your new reality. But you will face a great and subtle enemy the moment this audiobook ends. That enemy is inertia. It is the comfortable gravity of your old habits, the siren song of "I'll start tomorrow." Tomorrow is where dreams go to die. The inspiration you feel right now is a powerful but fleeting gift. You must honor it with immediate, physical action. So this is your first and most important command. Before you sleep tonight, you must take one small, tangible step to begin construction. Do not just think about it. Do it. Choose one, open a savings account named Fortress Fund, calculate your net worth on a single sheet of paper. Sell one thing you don't need online, or increase your pension contribution by just 1%. The size of the action is irrelevant. The act of starting is everything. A parting word, the art of building. The blueprint I have given you is the science of wealth. It is a perfect, static document. But life is not. It is a dynamic, messy, and beautiful process. Before I leave you to begin your work, I want to share one final thought, not on the science of the blueprint, but on the art of building your life with it. First, remember the blueprint is a compass, not a cage. You have a powerful plan, but you must allow for the seasons of your life. No one's financial journey is a straight line upwards. There will be a season of intense building, your spring seedling, where your focus is on Pillar 2, the earning engine. There will be a season of powerful growth, your summer, where you aggressively fund Pillar 3, the growth system. There will be a season of harvesting and defense, your autumn, when you shift focus to Pillar 4 and the preservation of your wealth. And there will be seasons of unexpected winter, a job loss, a health crisis. These are not failures, they are part of life. Do not be discouraged if you have to pause your aggressive investing to handle a winter. Your blueprint is the compass that will always show you how to get back on course once the storm has passed. Second, know that your wine is your fuel. On the difficult days, when you're tired and the sacrifices feel heavy, the logic of the plan will fade. The only thing that will keep you on the path is your deep, emotional why. I urge you to perform one final exercise. Write down, in detail, why you are doing this. What does freedom look like, feel like, and sound like to you? Is it being able to quit a job that is crushing your soul? Is it the peace of mind of knowing your family is secure? Write it down. Put that piece of paper somewhere you will see it every single day. When motivation wanes, your why will be your anchor and your ignition. Finally, find your fellow architect. Building a castle alone is a long and lonely task. Do not do this alone. Find one person you trust, your spouse, a sibling, a close friend, and share this blueprint with them. Ask them to be your accountability partner. Schedule a check-in once a month. Share your wins. Be honest about your struggles. The simple act of knowing you are on this journey with someone will dramatically increase your chances of success. The final blueprint is in your hands. You now understand the science of its construction and the art of its application. The knowledge is yours. The path is clear. A future version of you, living a life of peace and freedom, is looking back at this exact moment, hoping you will make the choice they can be proud of. Your family, and future generations of your family, are counting on the decision you make today. The work begins now. Stop listening. Start building.